We are talking today about The Usual Suspects. The director is Bryan Singer. The costume designer was Louise Mingenbach, whose filmography boasts X-Men, Superman Returns, and The Hangover. Rotten Tomatoes has this at 89% with the critics and 96% with the audience. This was chosen today by Bobby Morelli from Match Perfectly. My mate Bobby, how are we doing today?
Pete, it's great to see you, man. Excited to talk about this one for sure. It's going to be fun.
Oh, great to have you back. And thanks for making me relive The Usual Suspects. It's been such a long time since I've seen it, but boy, when I sat through it the other night, relived that film. Wow, it's just pure epicness, this film, isn't it?
It really is. It's funny. I hadn't seen this one in a while either. And it's like one of my all-time favorites. Leah had never seen it. So I watched it a few times anticipating, our conversation, looking forward to that. And there's subtleties and like different layers that you pick up really every viewing. I don't know how many times I've seen this film, probably 50 plus. And
Right.
You pick up little pieces every single time. I think that's one of the things I enjoy most about it. It's like the subtleties in this film are so good.
And before we get into the style element of the film,
Yeah.
what was Leia's reaction to this? Because I'll tell you what Anastasia's reaction was afterwards.
She really liked it. She liked it a lot, and I'll tell you, I don't want to spoil anybody, but she figured it out.
Really?
She did. Yeah, she had figured it out, which is pretty cool. I didn't say anything. I didn't want to say anything, but it got to kind of towards the end of the film, and where they're doing kind of the shootout on the boat and things like that. She's like, I think, again, I don't want to spoil it. I think this is who it is. Like, I didn't say anything. I was like, wow, she figured it out. So she really liked it. Did Anastasia not? Was Anastasia so-so?
So Anastasia, we got to the end of the film, and I could sense that during the film I was losing Anastasia a little bit, because bless her, she needs something to be a bit more simpler with her films. And this film has, like you say, many layers. It's kind of a riddle wrapped in enigma, as they say, isn't it?
Right.
So I feel like she was getting a bit out of focus towards the end. But when the last 5 minutes of this film happens, and when it hits the landing, which is the last 5 minutes, it's done so well. And it's so iconic now, I think, this ending, that she knew that she'd missed out on a really good film. Like she said afterwards, oh, I can see this was a really good film that I didn't quite grab when I was watching it.
Right.
So it was interesting. And by the way, the next day, this was all she was talking about. So she was going, well, what happened here then? Why was this guy doing this? And so she had this kind of urge to see it again through the eyes of knowing what's going on. But I do wonder if it is more of a guy's film than a girl's film, because of like it's all guys in it primarily, and violence, guns, etc. So yeah, I was very interested to see what Leia would think there.
I wondered that too, and it really is. It's very dark. It's very heavy. There's not much levity in the film, like, at all. But yeah, the payoff at the end is just so good. It's like it all crescendos to like that end. You see that fax coming through at the end, and you see, Spacey walking out at the end, and just like, it's such a good payoff. It's like the payoff is fantastic.
I would say this is probably, if not the best ending to any film. I mean, you could, so my theory is that you can take a good 5 and 6 out of 10 film, which I don't think this is, by the way. I think this is like easily an 8 or 9. And then you stick a 10 out of 10 ending on it. People leave with that memory from the cinema going, this was the best film I've ever seen. I had that when watching, I think, was it The Force Awakens or something, when Vader gets on the ship and starts throwing people around. I said, this film has just completely taken it another level in the last 10 seconds of the film.
Or like, maybe, I think Rogue One was like that too.
I'm thinking of Rogue One.
I think that's what you're thinking. Same thing.
Thank
you see him, that makes it worth it. And I think it's the same, this is like in kind of mid 90s. This is like that twist, big reveal ending seemed to be a popular trend, like an M. Night Shyamalan, Sixth Sense sort of payoff at the end. I don't know if this kind of started that trend or was kind of just a big part of that. And that seemed like, a popular plot device, kind of in that period.
Yeah, I remember seeing, I think it was The Illusionist after this.
Yeah.
Which was like Prestige Light. And they tried to do something similar to this. And I was like, oh, I just wish I was watching The Usual Suspects again, because this is exactly what they're trying to do with that big reveal, everything comes together thing. Yeah.
It's interesting. I watched the the audio commentary with Chris McQuarrie, who wrote this and who directs now and writes a lot of the new Mission Impossible stuff. So he's fantastic. So it's him and Bryan Singer doing the audio commentary and talking about their process. And this was written for Kevin Spacey. This was
Right.
like, that's who they had in mind. And I think the subtlety of Kevin Spacey's performance is so good. And like top to bottom, every performance is so good. Chaz Palminteri is so good. Dan Hedaya is so good. Gabriel Byrne is so good. Like even the minor roles are great. Like there isn't a weak performance in this film, I don't think.
Yeah, no, it's so rich all the way through. And oh, little footnote before I forget, a great impression
Yeah.
of Pete Postlethwaite that you sent me on the audio, by the way.
Oh, I'm glad I'm glad you enjoyed that. Yeah.
People don't know that Bobby can do a killer Pete Postlethwaite.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, as I said, like my employer sends his regrets, Mr. Booker.
There it is, everyone.
Yeah.
There it is.
I mean, yeah, he's so good, and that's one of the things they talk about. Singer and McQuarrie talk about. It's like you've got like these, Pete Postlethwaite's, he's British, but he's playing like a Pakistani, and you've got Benicio del Toro, who like you can't tell what his accent is and what his ethnicity is. You've got like this really crazy cast of characters and different backgrounds and accents, and it makes it really interesting. And the one point I wanted to remember to bring up, it's like they said on that audio commentary, which I found really interesting, is Bryan Singer said he get asked all the time what would you compare this film to? And he said, I compare it to The Wizard of Oz. He said that the New York scenes, it's like Kansas. That's where it's really black and white and dark and heavy. Not that it gets lighter in LA, but LA is like Oz, where it's bright and colorful, and you have like these characters like Redfoot, and it's just kind of larger than life. And I thought that was interesting. It's interesting going back and looking at it with that perspective.
Yeah, no, that's an interesting contrast.
Yeah,
And
it's pretty cool.
I liked it when also Singer would talk about Benicio del Toro, and because Benicio del Toro quickly realized that it was his job to be the guy that dies first. Sorry to give spoilers,
Right,
but that's
right.
that's kind of a given in the film, and so he had to do something very different to get noticed in the film, or at least to have some kind of presence. So he would make his dialogue almost incomprehensible.
Yeah,
You can't figure out what he's saying.
that's what they were saying too. It's like if you don't understand what Benicio is saying, say it. We'll keep rolling and ask,
Yeah.
and that's the way he played it. And I think it adds a cool layer to it for sure.
There was moments where Stephen Baldwin was apparently looking at Singer whilst Benicio was going on, and Singer would just go, "Just carry on,
Yeah,
just
yeah,
keep going.
yeah,
No one cares."
yeah. Stephen Baldwin's so good in this too. Like
He is.
The McManus character is really, really good.
Did you get any Gosling vibes when watching Baldwin at all? Because I just thought this guy
It's
looks a little Gosling-like.
I just think his presence is so good, and it's like you talk about the costume design on this. It's like he's pretty much straight black the whole time. That lineup scene is like that iconic scene. He's got like that big black chunky turtleneck with the big long leather coat over it, and really he's in black the entire time. And I think that lends to that character. I guess the only time he's not, you got the meeting with Redfoot, he's got kind of the red and black motorcycle jacket, but still, very cool the way he's got that swagger.
Mm.
It's like, even when the police are getting like, geez, don't you guys ever fucking sleep?
Yeah.
When they come in at the beginning, it's like, that's cool.
And
He just like,
he even
just
dies
cool.
arrogantly, doesn't he? He even
Yeah.
dies like he can't believe that
Yeah.
someone's had the balls to kill
Yeah.
him. Yeah.
Yeah. He's great in it. And I think, you've got a lot of that, like Kevin Pollak, known for his stand-up, before. It's like, this is totally out of the realm of what he would typically be cast to do. I think he's great. He's such a good Hockney, really, really good.
I guess we should talk a little bit about the style.
Yeah.
Some of that, most that's my fault. So,
Yeah.
what were the main style elements when you revisited this film? What were the ones that really stood out?
I think there's some things that clearly are dated now. They're really, you think big, baggy, there's a lot of oversized stuff. It's like some of Gabriel Byrne's clothes are really big and oversized. You think like that first meeting with Redfoot when they're outside. I think it's like the Friendship Bell or something like that in California. It's like really big and billowy clothes. I think there's a lot of '90s stuff with like collar on the outside of the blazer. You know what I mean? But I think there's some things that stand out to me. The Stephen Baldwin outfits I think are really well done. I think Chaz Palminteri, the suits that he's wearing as Dave Coulion, are really well cut. Those don't look out of place. And clearly that's somebody that takes care in what he's wearing. He's wearing the braces. He's adjusting the tie. It's like he wants to look dialed in. I think Jack Baer, FBI agent with the trilby hat and like the kind of old school style sunglasses, very 1940s. I think that was done with intent. Same thing on the Emerald Smuggler for the New York's Finest Taxi Service. Coming out with the hat and the seersucker suit and the bow tie and the trench coat. It's very. I mean, that's like really stylized. Yeah, and if you're smuggling emeralds, I think that's a pretty conspicuous looking outfit. I think people are probably looking at you, but it plays well in the film. And I think it adds a really cool, especially Jack Baer, that character. I think it's got a really cool film noir vibe about that. You know what I mean?
I know exactly. Well, those were the words I was trying to think up earlier on when there's a scene where, and again, I don't really want to give too much away, when Kaiser Soze is escaping the boat and the pier, and he's climbing down the rungs of its ladder.
Yes.
And he almost has the dark man Liam Neeson look to it, but
Absolutely.
film noir is definitely the words that kind of encapsulates that.
You see a lot of, whether that fedora or what is it, Giancarlo Esposito, who plays Jack Baer, really carries like a really cool 1940s vibe. So I think that, and it adds to me, that adds a real timeless element to that. Yeah. So I think his style is really good. Again, I think Chaz Palminteri's style is really good. I think the scene in the Hollywood Athletic Club with the pool tables where they're all waiting around, and that's where Kobayashi comes in, and the big reveal of kind of who's Kaiser Soze. Dean Keaton has that red shirt with like a dark gray shirt underneath and a black suit, and Benicio del Toro has an original penguin polo, navy blue polo. So again, that's sort of like that 1940s and 50s vibe, updated to the mid 90s. And I just think it's stylish on a lot of different levels. It's very stylized, but that doesn't supersede like the plot or anything like that. The plot is so good, the dialogue is so good, but all of these characters have a very definitive way they're dressed. And I think some of what I noticed this time, just trying to look at the sartorial aspects and the fashion aspects, I think Verbal, the way he dresses, it's almost effeminate in a lot of ways. There are a lot of floral patterns. There are a lot of things that aren't overly masculine. I think maybe that's to distract away that this guy couldn't be Kaiser Soze. This isn't the guy that, kills his own family and, kills everybody's friends and this and that. That's not this guy. So I think there's some misdirection there.
The whole film is about misdirection for me. I mean, to even paint Kaiser Soze in these different elements. So when the story is being retold by various characters, you have like the guy with the long hair, being Kaiser Soze walking through a ball of flames. You have, like you mentioned, the guy in the fedora climbing down the rungs of the ladder. So these are all kind of different images, but it's interpretations of Kaiser Soze without being the character himself, isn't it? So yeah, that's quite interesting to make Kevin Spacey almost like the antithesis of this by dressing him in Saint Floral.
Yeah, he's very meek.
Yeah.
Like he says, like in the jail cell, like it didn't make sense. I would be there. These guys are hardcore criminals.
Yeah.
Like why am I there? Which is very cool. I don't know. I'm curious to know, what did you think? It's like everybody had that distinct style. Like even Pete Postlethwaite with the like Mandarin collar, banded collar, shirts and things like that. Very intentional. Is there anything that stood out to you, fashion wise? Any certain look?
I gotta say, there were two elements that I wrote down on the notes that I sent over to you. Well, actually three. One was that Kevin Spacey smoked cigarettes like Telly Savalas. Underneath like that.
Yeah.
But two noticeable things when I think back on this film, before I rewatched it again. The images I had in my mind were of the lineup and Benicio del Toro's tuxedo, but with the red
Hmm.
blood
Hmm.
wine shirt underneath. So he's obviously come from a casino of some kind, or
Right.
a
Right.
night. He has that playboy element to him already entrenched in his character. But I guess the overriding impression was always Gabriel Byrne on the pier in that peacoat. So him kind
Yes.
of dashing through in slow motion, like coming through the shadows and the dry ice or whatever it was. I always thought that was like the nails, and that's kind of what scorched into my memory was the overtaking of the pier of the boat, but with Gabriel Byrne doing it with the kind of 90s hair flapping and the Ulster collar go.
I go with that too. I think one of my favorite shots in this film is that really tight shot of Gabriel Byrne with like the wire rim round sunglasses. I mean, it's super tight on his face where he says something like, "In my opinion, it can't be done." You
Yeah,
know, like they're trying to figure out how to do this, and that's a really really stylish scene. You know, it's
yeah.
like really tight on him, and I think Gabriel Byrne is excellent in this film. Not that everybody isn't, but I mean, it's like there's the subtleties in his performance are really good. But yeah, it's like he's got the peacoat popped and the sunglasses and that tight framing just looks, I mean, just looks so cool.
Yeah, no, I do love that. I love the fact also going back through the making of they really had to crowbar him, or sorry, like strong arm him into doing this film because he didn't want to do it
Yeah,
at all. He
yeah,
said he had things going on personally that he didn't want to do it, and he said he'd do it on a couple of conditions: A, he could be in and out in 4 or 5 weeks, and B, it had to be shot in, was it California? Um,
yeah, yep,
and
yep.
so the singer goes, "Yeah, sure, we can do that," and they were going to do that anyway. So like that was already
I
in the contract.
I think they shot this movie in about a month. I think like 30 total shooting days. I think it was like 28 in LA, 2 in New York,
Yeah,
something like that. It's really interesting. If you like this film, clearly like you and I do, watch the film with the audio commentary. You can tell how much like love was done into this. It's like they're going through and saying, "Oh yeah, that was my roommate in the background. Or this is my friend who you know we got to get on set that day." So
yeah,
you
yeah.
can tell this. It almost felt like it was not a student film, but just like a step above that. Just kind of fresh out of film school with still a lot of passion behind
Yeah,
it. Not a big budget film, but doing it because you know it's like a labor of love sort of thing. And I think that comes through.
yeah, no, that really does come through. And I haven't watched the DVD with the audio commentary, but I did go back and watch the YouTube. So there's several kind of making of
Yeah,
videos. So let me tell you something. I had a whole day. I watched the film, spoke about the film all morning. Next morning, Anastasia. I go to work, and then I can watch YouTube videos at work.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Shouldn't really be saying that, but I watched like 3 hours of the making of The Usual Suspects. And when I get on the train to come home, I actually follow this poor guy who's got cerebral palsy and walked like guys that
yeah,
like
yeah,
Kevin Spacey at the end. And I'm
yeah,
like, there's
yeah,
something freaky fucking
yeah,
going on here. And
yeah,
I said,
yeah,
I'm just having a whole day. I wanted to get on the blower to you that day and go, we've got
yeah.
to thrash this out today
It's
because
like,
I'm well in it.
yeah, it's like you're immersed in it.
I am. I couldn't escape it. Um,
I'm curious, did you where like if you can think back to kind of your first viewing, where were you tipped off or was it a big surprise at the end?
so I must have watched this when I was in college, and I have to say this probably I would never have twigged. I think it's interesting how you say Leia got it because back then I don't think there was any kind of films that I was watching where there would always be a huge reveal or a twist at the end. There wasn't, not that I knew. I couldn't be like, oh, I need to guess who it is during the film. So
Right,
you wouldn't be going through that process. You'd just be simply absorbing the film and trying to figure out what's going on. There was never any, oh, it's him, or kind of who done it. It's got to be that guy. Because I don't think Kaiser Soze was always going to be the person who was within the gang. He was always supposed to be
right,
this mythical linchpin that was supposed
right.
to be outside of the circle of these guys. So you didn't really have that guesswork to do when you were watching it in the 90s. At least I didn't.
I agree with you. And I think it comes back to sort of that device of you inherently believe the narrator. You believe the person telling the story. That's the person that grounds you in that story. They must be telling the truth. And
No.
this flips it on its head in a really cool way, you know. And I think that's one of the things that makes this film so enjoyable to me. You know, the costumes, the writing, the dialogue, but the overall story arc of this. To me, I can watch this over and over, and you pick up Kevin Spacey expression, or you pick up, you know, another subtlety, another little hint. Like I said, I've seen this movie countless times. You see something new every time.
Yeah. No, that's interesting you were saying about the narrator. I instantly think of Casino with the narrating where Joe Pesci's doing his own narration and
That's
then
right.
at some point he gets hit with a baseball bat and that's it for him
Right.
whilst he's
Right.
talking about it, you know. So
Right. Right.
that's a great device to have in the film, and I love
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Any favorite costumes of yours? The one I wanted to mention beforehand. I think they stay true to the characters. Like you see Kevin Pollak, the Hockney character, in an auto shop, and he's wearing a Porsche,
Yeah.
sort of leather jacket the whole time. So it's like you get a sense of what these characters are about through the clothes. I think did a really good job of staying true to who those characters are, which is cool.
I think so if something came up on eBay, the clothes for this film, the entire wardrobe, what would be the first thing that you'd look for? And if it was in your budget, what would you go for?
I really like that original penguin polo that
Oh, really?
Benicio del Toro is wearing. I really like that. I
Nice.
do. It's that again. That's sort of like a timeless, sort of 50s throwback look. I think that's a really cool piece. I think probably followed, maybe a close second would be that coat that Gabriel Byrne is wearing.
You go.
At the end, at the beginning, I can't feel my legs, Kaiser, that he's
Yep.
wearing on the dock. I think that's a great piece. And I think the Chaz Palminteri suit where he's walking into the restaurant, where he walks in the first time, very well put together to kind of bring Keaton in for the questioning. I think that's a great suit and tie too.
That's cool. That's a good selection.
Yeah, yeah.
I was going to say the Pico, but because you said that, I think I'll actually be. My favorite jacket was either the red and black one that McManus
Stephen Baldwin.
wears
Yeah,
with the meeting with Redfoot. I even like Redfoot's jacket as well. That kind of
yeah.
like burgundy. Was it like a burgundy? No, it was more like a tan,
It's
wasn't it?
yeah, it's like a light. He's like an army green shirt with like a
Yeah,
yeah, like a tan leather jacket, which is really cool. That's a good call.
I like that one, but I think I will have, because of the prominence of the character and the amount of screen time it gets, I'll have like a black Harrington, the collared Harrington that Kevin Spacey wears throughout the interrogation, because
Yeah,
that's on screen all the
good
time.
call.
So
That's a good call.
I
I
think
like it.
I think I'll take that one. I'll put a couple of quid towards it.
Yeah, yeah. It's
Or-
tough. It's tough to go wrong. Really, they're really some very cool pieces. The cut of some of that stuff aside, like we talked about earlier, some of it's cut a little billowy, a little big, but
yeah.
I think overall still a very very stylish film that holds up really well.
Yeah. Well, thanks for recommending it, Bobby. It was great to go back and rewatch this and encourage everyone. I hope we didn't give too much away, but I think, it's mid-90s. People have got to see
Yeah,
it by now, surely.
I hope so. And if you haven't seen it, it's really worth checking out. And if you have, I think definitely worth revisiting.
Yeah. And, it's got the Bondian elements in there. Benicio's there. I think that's about it. You got the peacoat.
Yeah, yeah,
if you like
yeah,
Benicio and peacoats,
yeah,
then you're in.
yeah, yeah, and a lot of guns.
Logos. Brilliant. Well, thanks, Bobby. Thanks for jumping on. Good catching up, mate. And hope to have you on soon.
My pleasure, Pete. Always good to see you. Thanks.
Cheers, mate.